Hello biogeographers, and welcome to your video tour of the UC Berkeley Botanical Gardens. Please follow along with your lab handout, pausing the video where appropriate to read the detailed information provided. Some sections of the video are narrated, and some sections have background music. I know watching videos of plants is not nearly as exciting as visiting the gardens in real life. Most cities across the world host their own botanical gardens, and I encourage you to visit your own city's garden at some point. See if you can find similar species to the plants shown here, and make your own observations about the different kinds of plant communities that exist across the world. Stop A. The disjunct distribution of the southern beech. Many closely related plants occur in widely separated or disjunct areas. The disjunction can arise in two ways: by the expansion of an ancestral range known as dispersal, or by the subdivision of an ancestral range into separate parts, known as vicariance. Vicariance may result from the breakup of a taxon's range into separate parts by extinction in intervening areas or the transport of a taxon to a faraway place by continental drift. Evolutionary biologists consider two taxa to be vicariants only if they are each other's closest relative and their common ancestors' range was split up as a result of some historical event. Members of this genus, Nothofagus, are dominant in the wet, cool forest of Australasia and southern South America. The seeds are intolerant of seawater, which precludes the possibility of long-distance dispersal between Australasia and South America. Rhododendrons are examples of radiation resulting from reproductive incompatibility rather than adaptation via natural selection. This type of radiation is due to polyploidy in these plants. Polyploidy is a condition where an organism has more than two sets of paired chromosomes and is frequently observed among plants. Whereas the vicariance we discussed in the genus Nothofagus is an example of allopatric speciation, polyploidy results in sympatric speciation. All of the different shrubs, bushes, and trees shown in this video are varieties of rhododendron. Many of the species in the botanical gardens are not currently flowering, but you can still see the incredible diversity by observing the differences in plant size, leaf shapes, and leaf arrangements. These leaves range from being short and broad to long and thin depending on the species. One of the most notable features of rhododendrons are their brightly colored flowers. Some of you may be familiar with azaleas, a subgenera of rhododendron. Azaleas have been selectively bred for hundreds of years, resulting in over 10,000 different cultivars. While beautiful and widespread, azaleas are also highly toxic. Stop B. Convergence in morphology among desert succulents. Taxonomists separate the cactus and euphorbia families as a result of their radically different flower structures. Let's look at the similarities and differences. First in this video are the columnar cacti of the North and South American deserts. Cacti have perfect flowers, many carpels, and fleshy berries. Second are the columnar euphorbs of the arid regions of Zimbabwe, Madagascar, and South Africa. The euphorbs have 3 carpels, and their fruit are capsules. Due to their strikingly similar vegetative morphology, it is not surprising that cacti and euphorbs might be thought to be closely related. However, a careful look at the morphology, particularly in the flowers, shows no close evolutionary relationship. The striking similarity in vegetative morphologies is the result of adaptations which enable them to live in environments where water is scarce and temperatures are high, and is an example of convergent evolution. Cacti and euphorbs appear similar because their ancestors were subjected to similar selective pressures, not because they inherited the characteristics from a common ancestor. Adaptive radiation of the cacti. The cacti of the North and South American deserts represent the legacies of an ancient adaptive radiation. The cactus family diverged from other flowering plants around 80 million years ago. For the next 50 million years, most cacti probably had large, thin leaves, narrow stems, curving spines, and lived in shady areas. During the past 25 million years, a mutant or series of mutants likely appeared with succulent stems, reduced leaves, spines, and more efficient physiologies. These characteristics allowed descendants that dispersed out of the shady tropics to survive in semi-arid and desert habitats. The cacti thrived in these harsher environments because they faced little competition from other plants. Consequently, they produced an incredible number of descendant species. Today, the cactus family consists of over 1,600 species, and examples of this diversity are seen here. Note in particular the variety of shapes, sizes, types of spines, and colors. Here is an example of the tree-like cactus Pereschia. Although this cacti looks like a tree, it does not have true wood. This broad-leaved plant is thought to resemble the first cactus that appeared in the New World tropics many millions of years ago. Stop C. Endemism in the pygmy forest. The California pygmy forest occupies several patches of ground located a few kilometers inland from the Mendocino coast. Its white, quartz sand soil is highly acidic and lacks nutrients. A concrete-like hardpan layer lies beneath the soil, preventing root penetration and impeding drainage. It becomes waterlogged in the winter and bone-dry in the summer. There are 5 terraces in the forest, called an ecological staircase. The rising of the sea level in the Pleistocene cut terraces as the coast was being uplifted. The youngest terrace is about 100,000 years old, and the oldest is about 500,000 years old, and each terrace supports a distinct association of microbes, plants, and animals. Only 44 plant species can tolerate this difficult substrate. 2 of these are endemic to the California pygmy forest, the oleander pine, Pinus contorta subspecies oleanderi, and the pygmy cypress, Hesperocyparus pygmaei. Due to this impoverished soil, they seldom reach heights over 3 meters, but both trees can attain tremendous heights when grown elsewhere. Many shrubs in the pygmy forest are members of the heath family, Ericaceae, noted for their tolerance of acid soils. These include Fort Bragg manzanita, Arctophylos numularia, and California rosebay, Rhododendron macrophyllum. Stop D. Alpine Fellfield Community. The distinctive features of the alpine fellfield community are reduced precipitation, rocky soil, and low nutrient levels. The cold temperature results in a shorter growing season. It also decreases the activity of decomposers, which results in less decomposed organic matter. This community has had to adapt to high winds, intense radiation, and reduced oxygen levels. Little precipitation, apart from melting snow, means that plants need long taproots to reach deep for water. These taproots also anchor the plants against strong winds. Few trees survive at this altitude. Those that do are called krummholz, meaning crooked wood. Plants have evolved many adaptations to this extreme environment. Compact, cushion-shaped plants grow in the shelter of lichen-covered rocks. Organic debris accumulated around low plants and in rock crevices provide nutrients that are otherwise scarce. Silvery leaves reflect light, protecting plants from fierce sunlight and high ultraviolet levels. Fine hairs on plants act as insulation against freezing, while waxy leaf surfaces help retain precious water. During the brief growing season, plants produce short-lived, brightly colored flowers to attract pollinators. Stop E. Vernal Pool Community. Vernal pools occupy depressions underlain by an impermeable layer or hardpan of soil. They fill with water during the winter rainy season, which slowly evaporates as the dry summer season progresses. These seasonal pools are occupied by specially adapted plant and animal species, many of which only occur in vernal pools. Different plant species may be most abundant at different depths of the pool's margin, leading to the development of rings of flowering plants as the water level drops. The simulated vernal pool in this video has an artificial hardpan of cement and is planted yearly to mimic the ring of flowers found in the wild. Vernal pools are of relatively recent geological origins in California, probably forming during the late Pleistocene. Most vernal pools in California are found in the Central Valley and on Southern California coastal terraces. They are most richly represented in California, but also occur in other areas with Mediterranean climates, such as central Chile. Two endangered vernal pool plant species are profiled in the Botanical Garden, Sebastopol meadowfoam and Burke's goldfields. Sebastopol meadowfoam, Limnates vinculans, has showy white flowers and is typically found in or near the bottoms of vernal pools. It is known only from Sonoma and Napa counties. Burke's goldfields, Lysthenia burkei, is a small golden yellow daisy, and it occurs at mid to higher perimeters of the pools. It is limited to Lake Sonoma and Mendocino counties. Threats to both plants' survival include urbanization, agriculture, and grazing. Both are listed as endangered species by the state and federal governments. The Center for Plant Conservation has sponsored seed collections for long-term preservation by this garden and Rancho Santa Ana Botanic Garden. Unfortunately, vernal pools are disappearing, as they typically occur on level or gently rolling lands that are desirable for agriculture and urban development. Additional threats to their existence include physical damage from vehicles, cattle grazing, dumping, plowing, changing hydrology through damming and draining, and habitat fragmentation leading to disruption of dispersal and changes in species interactions, including pollination. About 90% of the vernal pools in the Central Valley and in San Diego County are gone. Stop F. Communities on serpentine soil. Serpentine soils are found along continental shelves and are the result of uplift from the oceanic crust. You can find examples of this toxic substrate all over the world. Fun fact, serpentinite is the state rock of California. Serpentine soils is toxic to most plants. It has high concentrations of heavy metals such as nickel, iron, chromium, and cobalt. High concentrations of magnesium are also toxic, and the low calcium concentrations may make plants vulnerable to damage. There are low concentrations of essential nutrients such as nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. The dark color of the soil causes intense heat absorption, which increases soil temperature. Plants have adapted to the serpentine soil either by filtering or sequestering toxic elements and by adopting desiccation-resistant adaptations. The species growing in serpentine soil are dwarfed by the poor growing conditions, and when planted in a more suitable habitat, can grow much larger. However, in those environments, the serpentine endemics are generally outcompeted by native plants. Thus, there is a theoretical trade-off between adaptations to serpentine soils and effective competition in other, more hospitable soils. No single plant community occupies all of the patches of serpentine soil in California. Depending upon the local climate and topography, a particular serpentine area may play host to conifer forest, oak woodland, grassland, or chaparral. In any case, a community occurring on serpentine soil often consists of only a few small populations of dwarfs and xerophytes, which are plants that need less water. Observe the variety of plants present in this video, paying attention to the common traits among the different species. Stop G. Chaparral Community. Chaparral is the most common vegetation type in California. The word chaparral derives from the Spanish chaparro, meaning scrub oak, Quercus viridifolium. It is one of several shrubs, including California lilac, Cenothis, and manzanita, Arctostaphylos, that dominate this community. There are many types of chaparral, often characterized by the dominance of one species. Typically 1 to 2 meters tall, these shrubs have small, tough leaves that resist water loss. Root systems are extensive, providing access to deep water sources. Incidentally, they also help to prevent soil erosion. Similar communities exist in all Mediterranean climate areas, characterized by dry summers, mild wet winters, and fast-draining rocky soil. Chaparral is characterized by infrequent, high-intensity fires. After a fire, a brief springtime display of annual flowers is soon replaced by shrubs that re-sprout from heat-resistant burls and underground stems. Chaparral soils contain long-lived seeds of fire-following species which require a high-temperature shock to germinate. Other seeds require components from smoke and ash to stimulate their germination. Observe the variety of chaparral communities present in the Botanical Garden. Even in this small area, you can see high levels of diversity among the plant species. Stop H. Redwood Forest Community. The Botanical Garden's grove of coast redwoods, Sequoia sempervirens, was planted in the 1930s and is a monoculture. Redwoods are the world's tallest trees, some reaching 106 meters in height and 7 meters in diameter. They can live for over 2,000 years. Once widely distributed across North America, climate change beginning 65 million years ago reduced their range. They are now restricted to the California and Oregon coasts, where winter rains and condensation from summer fog provide the abundant moisture they require. The ambient temperature in the redwood grove is considerably cooler than elsewhere in the gardens, as redwood trees require a mild climate of between 50 and 60 degrees Fahrenheit. Water absorbed by coast redwood roots takes 2 weeks to reach the treetops. UC Berkeley professor Todd Dawson's lab discovered that the modified needles in their canopy can also absorb moisture, an important water source. Redwoods have adaptations that ensure their longevity, including bark as thick as 30 centimeters, which protects them from fire. High above the ground, the canopy teems with life. Ferns, mosses, lichens, dwarf scrubs, earthworms, crustaceans, mites, and salamanders all live in the water-soaked detritus caught in the canopy. The dense canopy prevents much light from reaching the understory, which consists of a few plants with broad green leaves, such as oxalis and ferns, and some tree species, including bay, madrone, and coastal live oaks. Redwood forest leaf litter is made up of tannin-rich redwood leaves that are toxic to other plants and fungi, which may kill redwood seedlings. Redwoods can reproduce sexually or asexually. Much of the regeneration in a redwood forest is asexual, via the cloning of stump sprouts or burls. The circular cathedrals of redwoods are the result of sprouts growing up and around a large stump. Redwoods can also reproduce sexually, and though their seeds are small and numerous, a high percentage of seeds are inviable.